going to talk about what happens in a down market? Changing market?
From a business standpoint? I meant...
How about just a human standpoint?
Real estate?
Well,
Your phone's been ringing with weird questions about caps and this and that. And
it's funny that I see this cycle, and I've been through this cycle now in 2008, a little bit in 2016. I mean, we don't think of 2016 being a down cycle in real estate, but it seemed to have been in the business of real estate. And now I'm already seeing it pop up again. The problem, and I'm speaking from the managing broker position, there's less deals, I think, that are being done. And now agents are trying to maximize the amount of money they get per deal. It's funny, when things were going good and everybody was doing a bunch of deals, they all came to the Modglin group and were asking for benefits. Do you offer retirement? Is there health care? All that. And then when deal flow started getting cut, now they're all trying to find ways to maximize money. And the three most common things that I see, and I've already seen it in the last day, 3 phone calls. Is there a cap that they pay the brokerage? Is one that's asked. Are there fees if they recruit somebody to my company? Do they get paid a portion of their commission? You know, and those are 2 of the biggest money items. And I told Ian just last week, I said, you will start to see this because I've been here, I've seen it. And like I said, today I fielded 2 phone calls, same conversation. They want a cap on the fee that they pay the brokerage so they can make more money. I mean, do you see that?
we don't see that, but yeah, so I hear what you're saying. So,
And I guess for people listening, a cap is when they've paid a brokerage a certain number, 10,000, 15,000, 20,000. From then on out, they want all of the commission because they feel they've paid a brokerage enough.
For that tax year.
For that license cycle. I try and run all my ICAs, the independent contractor agreement, calendar year. January 1 starts a new contract. But yeah, so then at the new license cycle, they would start back until they pay the cap, and then once they've reached the cap, they get 100% of the commission.
so is that a strategy by big box retail realtors to retain higher performing people?
It is. It is a new strategy that's out there that it's hard for me to combat now, but I combat it, I think, in 2 ways. One is I'm giving a really good deal out of the gate anyway, you know, with a flat commission fee. But I think just the concept, it irritates me that they're like, oh, we want you to still take all the risk, but not get paid for it.
They're not going to work for free after they.
Well, and that was one of them that I asked one of the agents. I said, so after you've made $100,000, are you just going to stop saying, well, I don't need any more money, so I'll list the rest of my houses for free? And he's like, well, no. I'm like, well, then why would I? I mean, I've still got litigation exposure on every deal they do. I've still got errors and omissions exposure. I've still got overhead costs because our admin still has to process the checks and all the paperwork for them to actually get paid. So I still have expenses on every deal they do. And that is what I've been telling them. No, there's no cap.
Now, isn't this also part of the issue with the race to the bottom commission? Everyone's been cutting everyone off at the knees for so long that you can't really go any lower and survive, especially when there aren't deal after deal after deal after deal coming. Now we can't go back the other way because everyone's we've kind of done it to ourselves from a realtor's perspective.
Yeah. I agree with that it is a race to the bottom, and they being the agents are trying to maximize the money they take home. But the problem is, I'm trying to maximize the money the business is making, and I'm taking all of the risks and a majority of the overhead,
So I'm just making a number up. But if they say they want a $20,000 cap, what if you say, all right, you write me a $20,000 check on January 1st, and then you don't pay me anything throughout the year?
There was a brokerage that tried that.
How'd that go? Because I don't think they would like that.
Yeah, the brokerage didn't fare well. As a matter of fact, it's not here, but there was a brokerage where you bought in. Part of coming on board was you wrote a check up front, and then you were 100%. And I knew the brokerage, the guy's name was Dave Talbot, and it's not that big of a deal, but that company's not here anymore. I think he might have been a little too early. I don't know if will ever work. But the other thing it does is it locks in that person to be with that company until that year end, because they're like, well, I've already paid my cap directly in.
Getting my 100% for the rest of the year, I can't go anywhere.
Yeah.
Well, that puts a shoe on the other foot for just a moment, because then
Yeah.
I got to consider if they're going to do that many deals. And then maybe that gives you the opportunity to retain a lawyer, or do whatever you need at the beginning of the year.
Well, the other thing I think a lot of agents like to hear is the word cap, because of what Joe was saying.
Yeah.
The reality is, if you do the math on most companies that put a cap, that person's doing 20, 25 deals a year. Now, I'm not saying that they all are, because I don't know all the brokerages. But I mean, if you're somebody that's doing 6 or 7 deals a year, you're never going to hit the cap anyway.
Yeah, very few will hit the cap.
Yeah. The other thing I have heard is by one of my agents said, well, I know a guy that's only got an $8,000 cap. And I said, well, that's a really good number, but here's the other problem. If he doesn't make enough money, that brokerage will fold. I mean, if you've got 2 agents work underneath you at an $8,000 cap, and the company's making $16,000 out of the gate, the E&O insurance minimum's $3,000, and could be higher depending on the volume those 2 guys are doing. So by the time you have an admin and pay your E&O insurance and take the litigation risk, which I don't know if you can even put a number on, you have to be doing a bunch of agents, and now you're playing in the Walmart model. I mean, you take $8,000 from each one, but you've got 90 agents. That's a whole different story than taking $8,000 and having 2 or 4 agents.
Interesting.
So that's the number one thing. And then, like I said, the other one is, are you paying me if I recruit somebody? Do I get a portion of their... Well, unfortunately, in my case, I can't do that, because I give virtually 97% of the commission to the agent anyway. So there's no money retained by the company to pay a downline. And I literally asked that agent, I said, I can pay a downline if you want, but you've got to go back to 70-30 split so I can have money to pay for
it's human nature
downlines.
to want the best of both worlds.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is what
They want more money, but yet they still want me to maintain.
So you got to be close already to the point where the risk isn't worth any more exposure for the trade-off in dollars or percentage. You're probably skirting it now with your brokerage.
Yeah.
You're at the floor. Near the floor. At the floor.
I don't even know how to put a value on the risk of litigation. I mean, we both know an agent that got involved in litigation that ended up costing about $300,000, and the E&O insurance did cover it. But I mean, you get one $300,000
just like that. I mean,
yeah.
The E&O insurance is going to go up the next time.
Yeah.
If they'll even do it.
If they will even do it, or if something happens and they don't want to pay, and now you've got to litigate with your own E&O insurance, and if you eventually lose and I get stuck with a $300,000 lawsuit, that virtually going to put you out of business.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know many people that's going to write a $300,000 check and go, oh, well, that's just the cost of doing business, and be in business the next day.
Unless you've been charging 40% this whole way.
Even then, that would take a lot of money.
Well, what it is they want the benefits of having their own brokerage without the headaches of having to do it themselves. You know, I mean, you want cap rate, you want to just start your own.
Well, and I firmly believe yes, I do take it personal still when an agent leaves, because it feels like I failed them, but I don't not expect every agent to probably want to do that, because I have that entrepreneurial mindset. I would imagine that most agents would, and I always equate it to AA baseball. You know, you get a guy in, or a girl, and they do well, and what happens? They get promoted to the pros, and now you got to refill that position with another beginning agent. So that's how I look at the brokerage. I expect they all should at some point want to, but there are still plenty that don't. I mean, I know a guy at FC Tucker that's been there 30 plus years. Actually, I know 2 or 3 guys that have been there 30 years at Tucker, because they don't want the headache of being a manager and the responsibility of answering to the commission and all of that. They just want to be salespeople.
Well, and back to you taking it personally. I completely get it. You know, taking that personally. I think it would be less personal if you were actually given an opportunity to have like a real conversation. Hey, Raymond, I'm leaning towards this.
Yeah.
Do you have advice on what I should do? You know, when you approach from that standpoint, it makes it more palatable, because you realize they are growing and they've grown underneath you. Like, we both know an individual that, you know, with an entrepreneurial attitude that wanted to go out there and open his own business while he was working for the other guy, and didn't talk to him about it.
Yeah.
In fact, was trying to cut him off at the knees the whole time while it was going on. And it didn't work out well. But if he had talked to him and said, look, I really am interested in owning something like this and running my own place. Do you have advice? He would have been given the advice, and probably would have been given help, because that person approached him that way. It's about the approach as well, in communicating.
I now know who you mean.
You know exactly who I mean.
I picked up on that one halfway through.
But that's...
Well, I mean, and to prove your point, you're right. When I was teaching with Dan Miller at another school, I literally approached him and said, I want to be a partner in your school. And he said, I don't want a partner. I said, well, I can respect that. But he then said, I will show you how to actually compete against him. Yep. I mean, he gave me the sales rep for Dearborn. He showed me all the forms I needed. And I literally started Real University with the help of Dan Miller, who is no longer alive. And I highly respect him. He gave me everything to compete against him. And so that's
I think a successful salesperson should be willing to share a successful person in anything.
Yeah.
Because there's enough business out there in most cases.
It's funny. That's the first thing I try and tell new agents. The first thing you got to understand is you're not going to do every deal. Just get used to that.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of them get butt hurt at the very beginning where, oh, my friend used another agent. To some extent, that's on you. Yeah. And to some extent, understand you can't do all 20,000 deals this year.
Well, here's the other thing with them, going back to where we started this conversation. How many of them, if they had a client, would be willing to say, oh, well, you know, I'll take it for less just because. I mean, they're trying to make a living as well. You know, you're making a living by helping to educate and protect them and help them through processes. I mean, it's the same thing. It's just a step down. They're not going to take less from their end client just because.
In 2008, when things turned funny, Did it happen overnight? There was 40% less agents, or was it
Well, it happened when the new license cycle came,
the next license
And that's
cycle?
coming up.
and that's coming up. June of 2023 is when you will see. I personally got 3 agents that have quote unquote quit.
They just won't renew, so they're still agents.
So they're still actually show as active in the board,
Gotcha.
but
So it will happen overnight at the
it will happen overnight.
license.
On July the 1st of 2023, you will see there will be a large number of people that did not renew because they had quit previously. And like I said, I've got 3 right now that I've communicated with, and we've sat down, and they're like, yeah, I'm not doing well, all kinds of other reasons, some valid, some not, but technically still show up as an active license.
In my mind, that creates opportunity, but does everybody look at it that, is it good for the business?
I think yeah.
It has to be.
Yeah.
Culling of the
Good for industry.
business, I think we've talked about before,
Yeah.
is required. In 2008, I think we had national NRA, or the NAR, not the NRA. The NAR had like 1.3 or 4 million, and it dropped to like 800,000. It took almost a decade to get back to that number. So like 2017, 2018, we hit that 1.3 again. And then since then, now we're up to 1.6, 1.7 million national.
So 500,000 may choose not to renew
Yeah,
it.
I'm guessing there'll be 300,000 to 400,000 that won't renew, that we will lose, which theoretically, we're going to reduce the number of deals done, but we're going to reduce the number of agents proportionally. So I think if agents, and that's what I keep preaching to my agents, keep marketing, keep going, because the ones that will drop out will create opportunities for you if you're still being active in the business. And I tell them, I said, look, I made it through '08. I know how to do this. But back to one of the comments that you made, one of the things that infuriates me more is when an agent calls and says, well, I transferred my license. Or in some cases, I don't even get a heads up. I just get the email from the state saying, hey, this person's license transferred. And then I spoke with a young lady today, and she's like, well, I feel like I need more training. I'm like, you realize you have not attended one of my trainings since you've been here, So don't use that as an excuse, because you chose to not come, and I do something either live, online, or streaming virtually every week. Now, it may only be 20 minutes, half an hour, but I do, and I record all of them and put them out to our agents.
And they're getting ready to have it at their fingertips on the new site.
Yeah, and the new Real University site has a new special section designed specifically for my agents. So the training's there.
Well, you asked the question, why would someone move a couple days ago? And
Yeah.
that's a good question. It
I
has to be for one of a few things we decided, right?
Yeah. Typically, they move for money. That's the most common thing. They want more money,
Perceived value.
which is what amazes me, because currently, dollar for dollar right now, I think in the Indianapolis market, I've got the best
Yeah.
total plan. Now, no cap. And I think a lot of those people, like Joe just mentioned, they hear that whole thing about, well, it's got a cap on it. Dude, you got to do 27 deals to hit the cap. Have you done 27 deals yet? You haven't done 27 deals in the 3 years you've been here.
No, but I'm going to.
Yeah.
This is going to be my year.
Yeah.
See, it's like Tommy Boy and the guarantee. Well, it doesn't have a guarantee on the box.
And, it's funny. I almost thought about it. I talked to Ian the other day about that. Maybe we should put a cap in and make it a cap where it's 20 deals or something like that.
Unattainable.
And then go, oh, well, not even necessarily unattainable, but just make it a reasonable number.
Well, you'd be happy if all your agents do that number.
But then it might press them to go, well, I got to get hit to the cap.
Yeah.
Okay, well, do your 18 or 20 deals and you'll get to the cap.
It's not a bad idea.
And
it hurts you a touch on 3 or 4 top performers, but
yeah. I would gladly trade the 2 or 3 top performers production above the cap to make all the other people reach the cap.
Yeah.
Problem is, I don't think that's necessarily a sliding scale that stands out.
And the people that have come to me that have specifically asked that, I've gone through the math with them, and then they've realized, oh, yeah, I do see what you're saying. It's the ones that, like you said, that don't ask, that just see the grass is greener and go, well, there's a cap over there.
The cap is important for like 5 people.
Yeah.
Okay. The reality is, somewhat, and I don't think it's any one of the 5 people has asked about the cap. The ones asking about a cap, it'd be like me asking you about a cap, and I know I'm going to do 5 deals in a year. What's my cap? I'm going to do 5 deals this year. You know it.
But does it make them feel like the guarantee on the box? Oh yeah, there's a cap. As soon as you reach it. Now, like I said, I go back to that whole thing. Supposedly, there's a company out there that's got a cap of like $7 or $8 or $9 grand. If that's the case, then all the brokerage tends to be is a recruiting machine. I want a pay raise, I just recruit another person. Well, there's $8 grand. I report, if I hired 10 more people, then there's $80 grand. What I would spend more of my time recruiting and less.
Yeah. And give nothing once they're in the door.
How much help can you really get from a broker if his maximum amount on you is $8 grand?
And I don't see what
or 10 grand.
From a dollars and cents perspective, absolutely there's benefit for that broker. But what you give up just doesn't make sense to me.
Well, it goes.
I mean, give up the ability to talk to you and have that time with you or with other people where you're they all want their cake and want to eat it too, and they got to decide what is most important to them.
Well, ironically funny, I've talked to some of the agents about lowering their commission, and they're like, well, we need to lower our commission. I said, no, the key is to show the value in what you want to charge. And if someone says, would you reduce my commission, the blanket statement is, sure, I would love to. What services don't you want?
Yeah.
Because you don't go buy a Ferrari at a Ford Escalade price. You give up some of the luxuries that the Ferrari has.
Well, it doesn't have a V12. It doesn't have a...
Yeah. Doesn't have paddle shifters, doesn't have all that. And if you're more than comfortable driving a Ford Taurus, then expect to pay for a Ford Taurus. So it's funny, they see it on that side when they're talking to clients. Mm-hmm. But yet, when it comes to the fact that I'm like, sure, you want a cap? When you hit the cap, then I'm done talking to you.
Isn't there a mindset in America that's changing, that business owners are like all just wearing monocles and twiddling their mustaches, the corporate America?
Well, that's there, but I mean, let's be realistic. If you're choosing to come to our brokerage, I would certainly hope that with the time you've spent with Raymond, realize Raymond is not going to be wearing a monocle and a top hat and strutting around with a cane. That is not who he is.
Another agent.
It may apply in other places, but that shouldn't apply.
No, it definitely. I'm not saying. I'm just saying when
I got to keep up my habit.
Exactly. Well, in my opinion, smarter business people would want to outsource things they're not good at. So I see what you offer is basically outsourcing to me. They are managing. They're running their own business.
Yeah.
They're just outsourcing the accounting. They're outsourcing the reference desk when they need help or get out of trouble.
They're outsourcing the risk.
And the risk.
Risk, most of all.
Remember the question that we got early on with the radio show about how do I start a business with like no risk?
Yeah.
Well, here's how you start a business with about as limited amount of risk as you can possibly start.
Theoretically, I am the one on the hook at the state level.
Yeah.
Now, they could get called down there, and they probably would, but hopefully the help desk is going to stop them from, hey, you can't write that, don't write that. Let's reword this so that we keep them from going down there.
Right.
That's the risk that they can't seem to find. And trust me, I've just read one yesterday. You guys were sitting here.
Yeah, oh yeah.
When, I mean, he had 4 dates wrong that if it would have been signed, his deal actually couldn't have worked because he misprinted a date.
Right.
And I caught that. I'm like, you realize that says 2022. He's like, oh, yeah, I got to change that. Yeah, that would have been a good caught because basically you just asked for a deal to close in a day and a half from now.
I wonder if it seems like a little editing, but it's a huge risk aversion. Avoiding, you just avoided a giant.
And the fact that he sent it to me and I caught 4 mistakes saved him from putting his client. And of course, that gets overlooked in the long run. That Raymond really doesn't do anything. Yeah, except kept your ass out of hot water because that deal couldn't have worked the way you wrote it.
Yeah, so if any money's to be made, that is very reasonable to expect a little.
See, now I want to push back on them and go the other way, where if the market, I understand racing to the bottom a little bit in a market where you list a house and then you have 20 offers in 3 hours and it's done. That you shouldn't charge people more for that. I mean, it's done quickly. Now we are at a point where we have to do multiple open houses, have to really work marketing, have to really do things. There should be more cost associated to doing that. And I don't think you're unjustified in trying to get more.
You might see that. I mean, we all saw, and you even saw it from the mortgage side, there are a lot of sellers that chose to not use listing agents and sell it themselves because they literally said, I'll get 4 offers without a listing agent. Why do I need you?
You won't need more.
And now it's going to change. So you might see an increase in the actual listing commission if somebody could go in and prove their value that, hey, we're going to have a dedicated website for your property. We're going to hold multiple open houses. We're going to do, 20 videos of the house. So, now you might see that. That's a good point.
I think some of it's out there right now. Generally, the only ones you hear squawking are the ones that are talking about how low they're willing to go. The ones that are getting probably what they deserve for the amount of work that they're putting in, don't talk about it.
Yeah. Well.
And we've got, we got one in our top 5 that has made mention that particular person,
still gets a high commission.
Gets a very high commission. But he follows through and gets stuff done.
Yeah, and provides the value to the seller and has closed 25 or 30 deals this year.
Yep.
But at a higher commission rate than some of the others because like Joe said, he's providing the value and he's showing the value and then he's actually executing on the value. He's delivering. So
if you're good at it, you're going to get paid.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense to me.
So you guys don't see that. I mean, when you bring on new MLOs, has that, and I hesitate putting this on recording for fear that somebody may go, oh, yeah. You don't hear agents asking for caps.
No, I don't really hear that. Starting your own, this is probably a little different than starting your own real estate. A little more in depth, but no, I don't get that much. I mean, in the banking world, there were a lot of first 3 months of draw. You get a draw or maybe get a little salary, stuff like that. That became commonplace, but ultimately, I think successful people that we want to recruit, that matters a little bit less to them.
Yeah.
It's a different world.
I could go on and bitch for hours about this, but
I couldn't if we don't eat lunch. Then.
Yeah, we've got to eat lunch.
That's an interesting talk. I'd be curious to hear what others have to say about it.
Yeah.
Leave some comments. Watch the video and leave some comments. We are interested in what people think.
And if you're a managing broker and want to reach out, I'd like to get together with other managing brokers and see if they are seeing the same 4 or 5 reasons agents are leaving, and if there's a way that we can combat that. I don't think there is.
without just telling them to go somewhere else.
Well, I think the grass is always greener
Yeah.
is a concept that can't be overcome once someone has it in their mind that, oh, this brokerage is going to do more for me than this brokerage.
Or lots of them just, like I said, this is going to be the year they're kind of floating along.
Oh, yeah,
They're betting on themselves.
Two things that are commonly said. The ones that have quit, I've asked them the same question. What did you do for marketing? Every one of them's first statement, well, obviously I didn't do it. Could have done more, didn't do enough. Yeah, I'm guessing that. So they all know what they're supposed to do.
Yeah.
They just, for some reason, don't want to do it. And I don't know if it's a fear of the unknown. I don't know if they're a fear of rejection, but they just don't really want to do it.
Some people like the glory and the trip to Hawaii and that stuff. Others like the money. Others like, the idea that it's structured and you're going to watch them over their shoulder. Everybody's a little different.
Yeah. That's the one thing that I would say that I probably don't do enough of is, it's going to sound bad, is micromanagement, which I will actually call accountability. There are agents that there are people that come to me and say, I wanted more training, just like this young lady today, who I promptly said, you have not attended one of our trainings yet. What she really wants is accountability. She wants someone to call her on a daily basis and go, did you do what you were asked? You and I both know I just gave a homework assignment, an actual physical homework assignment to the agent, which, by the way,
she did.
In your benefit, she did turn the homework in.
I was thinking back to my banking days, and I was going to work with a manager who had a reputation. Oh, she's a ball breaker. She's terrible, this and that. I went to work for her. She was my favorite manager. And because of those things, she held me accountable. She made me improve, coached me, and I got results from whatever happened there, whether it was good.
Well,
or bad.
I'm wondering if maybe that's an answer. Maybe accountability is something where it's a strong accountability. Might be something where, hey, by Friday turn this in, by Tuesday turn this in. That does involve a lot of hands-on, and now you're back to that. Okay, well, if you want that, and you want 20 hours a week of my time, I get paid for that. It's going to be a bigger split. But what? Oh, no, I don't want that. Yeah. I want your nice low transaction fee, but I want you to still do all the stuff for it.
And they all want that thumb until they get that thumb. Then they don't want the thumb. Then they go 3 or 4 months without the thumb, and then they're ticked because they don't have the thumb.
Yeah.
Then you give them the thumb, then they're ticked because they have. There are just people that
finger. I gave them the finger, not quite the thumb.
Sometimes people are not as cut out to be a salesperson
or independent.
Yeah.
So.
Well, all right. Speaking of independent,
let's roll.
Yeah.
Time to eat. Adios.